Hey, welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Big Talk About Small Business. And I'm here with my co-host and friend, Eric Howerton. One could say maybe a brother from another mother, as well as a very special guest here today, Harry Clark, who is with us. And Harry is another person that I've developed a real kinship for. He's much classier than I am, but I don't know. But I have a real kinship with him over both business and cars, and so we've become friends over the last couple of years. And Harry even sold a Rolls Royce for me that I lost a small fortune on.
Oh, really? That's a good story.
I don't blame him for that, though. Okay.
Oh, he wasn't the reason why you lost the small fortune.
I was my own undoing on that one. He just did his best to help me get out of it.
You get out of a sandpit.
Litigation. Right.
Harry, how was that? I mean, was that fun for you to help your buddy Mark here?
Oh, well, it took a while, but it is good. It is good.
What did he do? Go out and buy a brand new Rolls Royce?
Oh, no, I wish it was. I would have lost less money on it even, I think, but it was a 99 Rolls Royce, and it was British Racing Green. It was the only one that either Harry or myself had ever seen like that.
For sure.
And whenever I see green, it just does something to me. I like it all around.
Green does something to a lot of people.
That's
a very certain thing.
Yeah.
But I think that you're just more attuned, or you're more attracted to the greenness.
Maybe. I don't know what it is. But anyway, we won't get into that story. I think that's enough of that one. Really want to talk about Harry today. Harry has had a very interesting career. He's had 2 companies on the Inc. 500 list.
Awesome.
And he has written a book called Mistakes Millionaires Make. And I'm not a big fan of business books, as you know, but Harry's book is great. It has one story after another of, I guess, spectacular growth, implosion, and rebirth. Wouldn't you say, Harry?
Yes. Yeah. No, exactly right. Yeah.
Well, tell us a little bit about yourself and what your background is, and just some of your life story, if you would.
Sure. I really grew up, I say I grew up in Huntington Beach, California, which is a great place to grow up. I was barefoot most of the time and had a great
Fantastic.
time. I was a wrestler all through high school and college and grad school.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. Which is, it's, very disciplined and you work very hard. But that was kind of exciting. My father was at the time, you wouldn't say a tech executive, but that's what he was in today's nomenclature. So I saw him working 6 days a week, every single week, and working long hours. So hard work was just something that was embedded into each of us. So I went through college, grad school, worked for Deloitte and Ernst & Young on the consulting side, which was a phenomenal experience because there we also, basically the work ethic at the time was you tried to bill as many hours as you could. So 100-hour work weeks were normal. And we had a blast.
It's funny you say that because that was really when all those consulting groups were getting started in those big 8 firms.
That's right.
When I got out of my MBA program, they were hiring everybody out of my class. And at the time, they paid about $18K. The
pay was dreadful.
That's with an MBA,
Right. Yeah.
but you could do well, and that was a great time to be in that. And I'm sure you learned a lot from all the companies you worked
and
with.
that's what's amazing, right? If you when you compress your, by working 100 hours a week on multiple projects, you're compressing your learning experience, and it's phenomenal. I mean, in 3 years, I learned what most people would learn in probably 6 or 7 years.
Sure.
So that's normal for that environment.
Yep.
And then the manager that recruited me out of grad school recruited me into a municipal finance consulting firm, where we helped municipal governments issue bonds. And after 2.5 years, they made me a partnership offer. We couldn't agree. So it was my brother and my father that said, well, why don't you just do it on your own? You're doing great.
Yep.
So I did. And I was about 27 years old. And my brother invested $25,000, and off we went, and I literally broke even at $26,000, and it was cash flow and very profitable.
Great.
Cash flow positive and profitable.
So you were just consulting. What all were you consulting with?
So initially it was a software solution to help administer municipal bonds.
Okay.
And then levying assessments to pay the debt service on the bonds. And then you guys will love this, right? As an entrepreneur. And by the way, I never wanted to be an entrepreneur. I just, I wanted to be a partner in a firm, right? That's
sure.
I wanted to be a colleague, not
right.
the CEO.
Sure.
So,
a lot of value, a lot of benefits in that.
Life's journeys,
Yeah.
Anyway, so
that's your next book, Harry, The Reluctant Entrepreneur.
Yeah.
Right.
I like it. And anyway, so my first client that I sold the software to, after about 6 months, they said, "Hey, Harry, the software is great, but can you just do it for us?" And I was like, "Sure, we can do that." So we retooled the business to be a service provider.
Yeah.
And within 5 years, it was the largest in the U.S.
Wow.
It was just phenomenal. I mean, I started with a desk and a Toshiba laptop and the phone, a desk phone.
Sure.
This is 1989. And I looked at the phone and realized no one's calling me, so I better get on the phone start, making sales. So anyway, it was a phenomenal experience. And anyway, I sold that in 1996 or 7 to a Fortune 100 company for huge. We were set for life. I mean, it was.
What company did you sell to? Are you able to release that?
MBIA, which was a bond insurance company. It was, again, a Fortune 100 company, a $14 billion company.
Wow, great.
Wow.
And so I was a senior officer with them for 2 years, which was twice as long as anybody thought I would
Yeah.
stay.
Yeah.
But then I started a school, fully integrated design build school development company where we did everything from land acquisition, municipal financing, architecture, engineering, manufacturing, and construction. And that we started with 5 of us. And in the first year, we did $7.5 million. Wow. The second, and this is 1999. The second year, we did $15 million. The third year, $25 million. The fourth year, $50 million. The fifth year, $100 million with $200 million in backlog.
Wow!
I mean, it was a rocket ship.
Harry, do you have anything that I can give you $100 and you start? I gotta look. I actually got a computer later around.
It's a Toshiba too.
Yeah, that's right.
It's a Toshiba laptop.
Well, but that was 89, right? 1989.
Awesome, man.
No, that's a tremendous success story, though.
That's cool.
It really is. It's fun when things are going like that, though, isn't it?
Oh, it's exciting.
Yeah.
But scary too.
Sure.
I mean, it was like, riding a tiger.
Yeah, that's cool. And who doesn't like riding tigers?
I know. I do. I love it.
But you look like you're riding a tiger.
I feel like I rode one this morning. But no, seriously, though, Harry, didn't 2001 impact you at all? Because I remember our business in '01, like it started to slow up a little bit over the anthrax scare.
Oh, yeah.
That was the first thing. And then when 9/11 hit, it was like the phone stopped ringing. And I thought, holy cow, what is the world going to end? It really flattened out in '01. Did you all do that, or did it have any impact?
No, we had 100% growth through the whole.
Sorry, you were doing right then, damn it.
So, but let me back up, because what the key to that, okay, is that we, those 5 people, right? I was one of the 5 founders, right?
Yep.
And I was CEO, and I funded the thing. But we started by going to a conference room at a resort, and we had a huge whiteboard.
Yeah.
And we listed all of the problems associated with school delivery. So how do you deploy? How do you create new schools and deliver them? So we listed all of the problems, and one by one, we spent the weekend engineering the perfect solution to each and every problem. So so doing, and we created again, even the financing for it,
Sure,
and the funding for it.
Yep.
So, and the name of it was turnkey, right? Because
it's what you were.
A complete solution.
Yeah.
Now, if we were just doing one aspect of it, I could see that it would be more vulnerable. But there was such a pent up demand for our solution that really, nothing would have stopped it.
So what happened? You got up to 100 million.
Good. Now that's the drum roll, right? So at 50 million, I recruited my first CFO, because I had a finance background. I had always been CEO and CFO.
Yep.
Well, I recruited a CFO, great guy. He had worked for like TaylorMade Golf and Solomon Skis and that kind of thing. And he was Parisian, just French cuffs, everything, just a real gentleman. Anyway, so this is at 50 million. And so I hire him in 2004. And I say, hey, let's raise $20 million, because at this point, I'm personally guaranteeing everything on this business. And I never, even though I had that exit and I had all of this, complex and comprehensive estate planning.
Yes.
I never intended to have this rocket ship and all the risk associated with it. So we had 5 proposals for 20 million, an investment of 20 million for a 20% equity stake in the business.
Okay.
And it's like, yes, $100 million valuation after 5 years.
Yeah. It's impressive. Yeah.
Yeah. So one of them said that they could fund in 30 days. Everybody else was 90 days. And I'm thinking, look, money is a commodity. If somebody can fund in 30 days, and we're growing at 100% from 100, by this time, 100 million to 200 million.
Yep.
And when you grow fast, it eats cash.
Sucks up capital.
How profitable you are,
sure,
it eats cash.
Yep.
So I'm thinking, let's get the cash faster. So we select the company that offered as bait 30 million, and commence due diligence. So we start the due diligence. Everything's great. The due diligence was 30 days. The Friday before funding the 20 million on Monday, the manager for the private equity firm goes up to my CFO and says, "Hey, Philippe, we're closing on Monday. You have $1.5 million in your bank account. Why don't you pay down your payables? And then on Monday we'll fund, and this way we get ahead of it." Philippe does that.
Yep.
And then on Monday, I got a phone call from the owner of the private equity firm, who, was notorious, which isn't a good word, a notorious billionaire that made his money doing corporate raids. On Monday, he calls me and he says, "Harry, we love your company. Everything checked out fine. But over the weekend, we got a cash report and you don't have any cash, which means you need us more than we need you. So instead of 20% equity, we want 80% equity."
Oh, Lord.
Yeah.
Wow.
My jaw dropped. I told him, "Hey, no thank you," hung up, called the investment banker, and we were in a world of hurt.
Yeah.
And ultimately, through a series of, mistakes in hindsight, we ended up winding the company down. And with that, all my personal guarantees, I lost $100 million personally. And that was in 2005.
Wow, that's brutal, buddy.
Damn.
Yeah. That's
a bad day, huh?
Oh, man, I'm telling you.
Jeez.
So this was a deliberate ploy, obviously, for this guy to hold you over a barrel, huh?
He had done it before. And, yes, yeah, exactly. It took about 2 years of this intense litigation when the dust kind of settled a little bit. And I got pissed off. It was like, how did that happen?
Sure.
Because for 20 years, I had gone to the top entrepreneurship programs in the world, all around the world.
Sure.
I mean, MIT, London Business School, Center for Creative Leadership, blah, blah. Anyway, you name it, I went to it. How did I step on that landmine? It was really, a landmine. Because, how would you know that that's what he was doing?
Right.
Unless you heard somebody talk about it or read a book or whatever.
Well, my theory is, and I never had that level of bad dealing that I had to deal with. But I will say, just getting into the construction and development business, coming out of the AE side, I was really unequipped for the ethics of the industry compared to what I came out of. And I think maybe, if you're so trusting and you've dealt with generally honorable people, and then suddenly you confront somebody who's not, we're unequipped for it.
Mark, you are so right, because I came from municipal finance.
Yeah.
Right.
It's a straight up business.
Very, very small industry.
Sure.
Well, you can't screw anybody.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, if you do, you're out of business.
Sure.
Right.
I mean, there are people that were aggressive, but aggressive isn't, screwing somebody.
Sure.
Or, unethical, right?
Right.
Man, I think that I have a story that I got left at the altar at 4 a.m. on the day of signing. We already signed on our side. 4 a.m.
Holy cow.
And we'd already borrowed money in good faith against, we got pulled into that whole arena. Hey, here's an advance, all good. We're doing this, no problem, all through due diligence. 4 a.m. Partner, I wake up to an email the next morning that the investor wrote at 4 a.m. saying, I just don't feel good.
Wow.
And we're just like, what? And so we walk in, we celebrated the night before because we were about to do this.
Sure.
Walk into a whole different energy. And then we had like $250,000. I mean, it wasn't anything like that, but it was like $250,000 of debt now that we're riding that we got to pay back to somebody that just left us. Literally left us. But anyway, but I think like I can share, like your story reminds me of that gut punch, man. I mean, to your point, like I think that we're all really talking here about like we're earnest entrepreneurs that are trying to make a living and make a difference and do the right thing and fill a gap. And then you run across people that aren't in that same realm. Like it's
true.
The business statement is real.
Yeah, well,
to some people.
All business is personal too. But anyway, I had a similar story. We and our company sold in 2001. And we were all the way down to the details on the purchase and sale agreement. We were selling 80% of it to a nonprofit for $12.5 million. And when 9/11 hit, they fired the development guy and were just gone. I'd already ordered a nice new Mustang GT convertible for my 16-year-old, soon to be 16-year-old,
Yeah.
And it just like all, and then
just going.
And everybody had gotten into that frame of mind that this is what we're doing, going to the next thing and all that. And then
that's the biggest damage is that frame of mind of the
really
team.
hard to get that momentum back.
Yeah.
Which was fantastic up to that point.
Right.
Yeah.
And just like your story here, like you
straight up,
you guys were like from your story, you're churning and building and things are just optimistic and you're growing and you need capital to continue the great ride that you're on, and then all of a sudden,
Yep. Oh, it was absolutely heartbreaking.
How did you recover? Yeah, how did you recover from that?
That's what Sorry,
that's all right.
No, it's a great question as well.
Yeah. So it depends on what you mean by recover, but I can tell you, like emotionally,
Yeah.
It was literally for 7 years. I did on average about 10 hours of yoga a week.
Wow.
And just to kind of keep centered and keep my head on straight. And it really, I mean, can you imagine the humbling experience of going through that?
Yep.
And finding out who your friends are and who they're not. There's one thing, and I'm not sure how applicable this is to your listeners, but it's something that I had learned, or maybe we should save it for when we talk about the book. But well, do you mind if I?
No, jump into it, please. Yeah.
Okay. So the book was a result of it took me about 12 years of litigation to wind that business down. God. So it was like a ball and chain, strapped on my ankle, and what just made no sense to me was what we were taught in business school is, look, the worst case is, the beautiful thing about the U.S. and the UK and most of the Western world is the worst case you file bankruptcy and bam, you see a fresh start.
Yeah,
right?
No way. Yeah.
Okay, well, so that's what we're taught. Nothing else, right? Full stop, period.
Right.
Fresh start, right? And that's true for most people. The problem is that if you have an estate that is worth a lot of money, then the lawyers, it becomes a feeding frenzy for the lawyers. And so
a target-rich environment.
Oh, it is.
Yeah,
it is.
Sure.
They'll literally look at how much money you have and determine how many years they can litigate. It's phenomenal. Nobody had ever known that before. So, I have my book here, right?
Yep.
And it was really my wife encouraged me to write a book after this whole 12-year period had passed. And I said, well, I mean, if I write about my experience, people would read it and say, well, he was an idiot, right? I would never do that. Right?
Yeah.
Because that's how, to be an entrepreneur, we have to have a lot of ego, right? We have to have, self-esteem.
Can't be humble.
Not you, Eric.
No, man. I'm a very humble man.
No,
I didn't realize it was so funny.
He is. No, truthfully, he is. He really is. But no, I hear what you're saying. You at least have to have enough ego to think I can overcome a lot of stuff.
Exactly.
There's nothing.
Because otherwise, the first person that says, Mark, you can't do that.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. You flip you off. I'm going to the next one.
We've talked about that before. That you're going to show him. That was exactly what you said.
But then I had somebody tell me no earlier. All it did is make me like, that's exactly what I want to do then. I will show them. Nothing can stop me.
So let me ask you one thing. I know in your book you obviously found other people and their stories and told them of all that they went through, and you did it in such a easy to read way. I was going to say that when I started out earlier, like I don't really like business books, but I really did like Harry's book
because of the way he wrote it.
He's a great writer. It's
That's
not
awesome.
got any bullshit in there. There's no acronyms and buzzwords, and they're not pivoting and storytelling and all the other crap that people say today. He didn't self-proclaim he was a visionary like these people do on LinkedIn. I love these
I don't understand what the
descriptions.
What's the problem with the acronyms to Mark, or the cliches?
I
don't see the big problem with that.
It just bugs me. I mean, I don't know what else to say. But anyway, he doesn't do any of that. It's super readable. But Harry, you mentioned your wife, and I never talked with you about this. Did you keep the same relationship during this whole endeavor?
Yeah, great question. Because
it puts a strain on things.
Yeah. No, we had been, my wife with Turnkey, right?
Yep.
We were married for 20 years, had 3 kids together.
Yep.
Had what would seem like a charmed life.
Sure.
And after 1 year of being in that purgatory, with all the litigation, she left. She bolted. When the attorney said, she asked, because at the beginning of it, the attorney says, "Oh, in a year, this will all be over."
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Which, I think he was selling the fact that he's charges $800 an hour and he's going $100,000 a month.
Wow.
Okay.
Yeah.
For our personal bankruptcy. And so after a year, she said, well, when is this going to be over? He said, I have no idea. And literally, I felt her spirit just drift off. I mean,
scared the shit out of her. Scared the shit out of her, didn't it? Just absolute scared the hell out of her on that.
Yes. Yeah. And it's totally understandable that, she wanted to know, are we going to live in a mobile home in Barstow, or are we going to keep our one country estate? And there was no answer. Right?
Yeah.
We were in purgatory. So,
maybe a split level in Visalia. I don't know if you go down to.
There you go.
The mobile home might be a little too much, but no. But so, it's common that these things, I think, put a huge strain on your relationships. And not, Eric and I both had our spouses on the show in an earlier episode, and we're both on he's on number 2, I'm on number 3, but it's they're not all able to deal with this entrepreneurial stuff.
Yes. As a matter of fact, for when I deliver my keynotes, I talk about how, look, entrepreneurs, right? We are equipped generally to handle the stress.
Right. Sure.
Now, that doesn't mean our family is.
Exactly.
And so, I really beat her up, by by exposing her to the stress, thinking
sure.
she knows more,
Right.
she'll feel better, right?
Right.
I mean, I want to know more. I feel better if I know more.
Sure,
right?
exactly. Yes.
But in
Not
her case,
opposite.
probably it was too much.
And man, you can't go navigating that.
Yeah.
Like as an entrepreneur, like these things are hitting you. You're going to these attorneys. You're trying to figure all this stuff out. You're trying to keep your wife involved in this because you think that's. I mean, but you cannot.
Thing to do. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's impossible for any human brain or emotional intelligence to consider so many dynamics from people around you and how all this is affecting them. I mean,
So, you know what might be an appropriate analogy is, you know how if when you're leading a business and you're having a big challenge, you walk into the business and you have to project like,
Yeah.
hey,
shit's good. It's all good.
Everything's great, right?
Great day. I've been doing yoga for 2.5 hours trying to get my head right to walk in. But today's a great day.
Yes. Yes. No, you're right.
So, probably the approach should have been more like that.
Yeah.
It's like, you know what, we're going through a hard time, but you know what, it's going to be awesome on the other side.
Yeah.
But honestly though, Harry, like I can relate completely I can relate with everything you're saying. Like, I mean, it's awesome. I'm loving this dialogue. But like the reality is even as an entrepreneur and being as strong and as visionary as you are to get through these things, or the level of risk doesn't affect you the same way. Like your family support is important to you during that time, that you have somewhere to fall on, like emotionally, or just like there's just somebody that gives a shit. Because when you're dealing with that stuff, nobody else, like your vision, the reality of your world is like everybody's a dog after everything you got. And you got those attorneys, like even your attorney who's representing you is actually they're just freaking raking it in, man.
Let me ask you this. Were your mom and dad still alive at that point? Your mom's still alive now, isn't she?
No.
She passed away?
Passed, but at the time they were both.
Okay. Were they supporting you emotionally? Yeah. Well, that's, you at least had that, and that's important. So we went through this 12 years of being stuck in sort of a limbo state, I guess, trying to figure out where the dust was all going to settle, and your wife, you changed your relationship there. So then what happened? So I, through this period, I did lots of consulting work and life was tolerable. Afterward, my now wife, who I've been with, we've been together for 12 years. Yep.
Again, it was her idea to write the book. So I kind of, dedicated myself. I told myself for 3 years, I'm going to give back. I'm going to write this book. But I interviewed 30 entrepreneurs that made and lost 10 to 200 million, recorded and transcribed the interviews, correlated the risk factors in the stories tell the book. So that's, the stories are the book, right? And describe the risk factors. So I was then basically delivering keynote speeches all around the world. 30 countries, 80 cities, which may not sound like a lot, but 30 countries.
That's a lot, man.
To fly to deliver, an hour and a half keynote. That's a lot.
It's a grind.
Yeah. But it was, you can imagine what I learned in doing all of that and meeting all of those CEOs and business owners. It was really a blessing for me.
Sure.
And then it was my mother who said, Harry, because I was trying to figure out, okay, what am I going to do?
Right.
And initially it was my mother that said, Warren Buffett says if you do what you love for a living, you never work a day in your life. So you ought to have a classic car dealership.
Yep.
It was like, no, I could never do that. No, I was a major collector,
Sure.
my whole life. I mean, when I was 15, I had my first show car.
Your dad was into it too, wasn't he?
Yeah.
That's what I
Totally
thought.
different cars, but he was totally into it as well.
Yeah.
And literally when she said that, it's like, no way, because I never sold my own cars. I always used an auction company or a broker. And I thought about it overnight, and it was like, you know what? Wow, if I flip the switch as a collector to being a business person, I could probably do it. And my God, it's been phenomenal. And so I did it kind of on the side initially, and then then my wife, I don't know, 6 years ago, said, Harry, because the keynotes were, I had done my few years.
Sure. Done the circuit.
Right. And then about 5-6 years ago, she said, well, why don't you just buy a building and have a real dealership and lean in? Because, Mark, I was contemplating, okay, should I go one more round, with scaling a business or being a CEO, a hired CEO.
Yeah.
And she said, no, just, buy a building and have a classic car dealership. And my God, I'm the luckiest guy in the world. I mean, I'm surrounded by these beautiful classic cars, and I have a great team. We show cars all over the world, and it's all a business expense.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
You get to drive cool stuff.
That's
to still meet cool people, right?
Yeah.
And is that what you do? You started doing that full time? I mean, I guess. How long has that been? Like what date did you kind of quit doing your keynotes and stuff?
Luckily, I'm very fortunate. I have a great team here.
Okay.
So I have a whole team here, so I can go and I was in Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, and Jordan in June, and then Frisco, Texas.
Yeah, I did it for Swide Group. Yeah. Here
really?
Talk, at the latest Innovate conference.
Wow, how fancy.
But Harry still does that. But I mean, so back on your classic car business, though. I mean, you've got sort of a unique way you do it. I know you own some of the vehicles yourself, but you do a lot on consignment, and you do a fantastic job with your videos. Yeah. The videos and the photography and the sort of, here's every single thing we can find wrong with this vehicle.
Yeah.
Really reduces, I think, a lot of the risk for the buyer to buy from you.
Exactly. Yes. So we're selling these cars all over the world.
Yeah.
Literally all over the world.
Yep.
People are sending us cars from all over North America, and I'm getting 2 cars from Malaysia.
Wow.
That are being sent to me, which makes no sense, except for the fact that through
you have a distribution
videos and the description so different than what anybody else does that we've created a community worldwide.
Yes.
It's fun. But Mark, the funny thing is, we do the videos and photos ourselves.
Right. I know.
Our iPhones, right?
And the quality is unbelievable.
We have here. I'll show you. We do our own drone videos, and we just so What I love about this, and I would encourage anyone to really find out what gets them excited, in the morning, as a passion.
Yep.
And, for me, I love it because I have this big art side of me.
Sure.
So
I get it.
The photos and videos kind of check that box. I love doing the research on every single car.
You do a lot. I've learned you do a lot of the history, and you get into like who owned it originally and where it came from. It's always very interesting. I read all those that you
telling the story,
yeah,
right? Telling the story,
yes,
and God, it's so that that nerdy academician side of me, it kind of ticks that box. And luckily we have just incredible people, and we think of it as we're in the happiness business.
Yeah, I like that.
Because whether you're a seller or a buyer, right? Nobody needs this stuff.
Yeah.
Right?
It's all a toy.
It's their happy place, right? So whether they're selling or buying, we're making them happy.
Right.
That's great.
Well, I think the other thing is too, like, I mean, you don't come across as a car salesman. Okay. Right. So there's
like I do.
Yeah.
You don't.
I mean, did I want to? I like it. Go ahead though. I like being the car salesman, but go ahead.
But no, I mean, I think, and you're also extremely knowledgeable about these things. You're one of the few people I know really knows a lot about it. And so, but yeah, you've created your own little distribution channel here through providing better photos, better videos, better backstories, better conditional information, and being trustworthy. And you can see why the whole thing works.
Yeah. And it's a blast.
Yeah, I'm jealous entirely. So now you live out in Scottsdale now, is that right?
Well, yep. There's a little area called Paradise Valley, which is sandwiched between Phoenix and Scottsdale.
Yeah.
And we had the fun process of 19 months ago moving into our guest house, tearing down our house, and hopefully before Christmas we move back in. So.
Well, it's never fun. Erica's building a castle on a hill right now.
Not a castle.
It's like a compound. I think he's going to have
it might be more like a compound.
Houses for each of his kids there. It's crazy. It's
I bought just a little hill by a creek.
Yeah.
By a creek. It's going to be good. I actually just looked at the plans this morning.
Are you going to have a cement pond over there?
I might.
Yeah.
I was thinking final.
We're really coming up here in Arkansas, Harry. You wouldn't believe it. I mean, we've got a dentist in town now. It's everything.
Let's let Harry think that, because the stud that Harry is will come in and take over everything that you and I are trying to do here.
Yeah, we don't want
we would get ousted immediately if Harry knew how awesome it was here. Harry, this is a great. I mean, I love this. I just love this episode. Actually, I like Harry more than I like you now, Mark. It literally took 45 minutes for me to understand that I would rather be hanging out with Harry than you. How does that make you feel? Thanks for the introduction.
It will elevate you. I'll say that. He's far classier than I am.
No way, man.
He is. But
no, I mean, but honestly, like it's the conversation around those dark moments, Harry, like, I mean, we don't have enough of that in our world. So I applaud you and thank you for writing your book, for sticking to that vision, for going deep within yourself to pull that out and exposing yourself. Yeah. Because you made a really good point earlier about the ego, well, my experience has been like, there were moments when I had, there was no one you could talk to. I couldn't even talk to Mark.
You should have been talking to me then.
Man, I know, man. But at that moment, though, I mean, now it's easy for me to think.
Well, because we're successful.
You'll talk to me now. But there was a time period. There's those periods when, like, you can't.
Yep.
What can you turn to?
It's true. There's nobody to talk to.
There's no one. And I don't care what anybody says. I mean, I don't know that you have to be a strong person. You have to be a faithful person, or your vision is so just absolutely keen to make it through some of those things. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Because, like, you in your mind, somewhere deep down within inside yourself, maybe it's when you're doing the downward dog, you are recognizing that, hey, I'm going to make it through this, right? And shit happens. And you know what? The world like I'm overcoming because there's things that I still want to go do. That's at least where I was at.
Well, the fortunate thing is that genetically, entrepreneurs are wired to be optimists.
Yes.
They're wired as optimists, if you will.
Yes.
As such, we're more fun at parties. We're healthier. We live longer.
That's good news.
And we can make it through the dark periods, right?
Mm-hmm.
The downside is being an optimist. Often it creates these vulnerabilities.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Right. If we were pessimists, like if I were a pessimist, I would have been, well, why are they doing that? Why would they want us to pay the 1.5 million? Right?
It's gonna put me at a risk level, and it doesn't check off. People don't do that.
Yeah. Everything's too risky.
But you were like, I mean, shit. If you called somebody up, here's the reality. If any one of us called somebody up and said, "Hey, man, go ahead and wire that $1.5 million over because it's going to make the books look good," my intention is that is supposed to be helping you.
Yeah.
Like there is zero inkling.
Why would you think it was a ploy?
I never have a thought in my brain to do that to anybody on this entire planet because it's like against all the shit that's inside my being. But it's just not the way it works for everyone.
No.
Right. That's right.
There are some people who don't mind hurting other people. That's not any of our styles.
No.
But they do exist out there.
Not only do they not mind, but they intentionally do that. Like, it's crazy. Like here you said something earlier too. I mean, I was, during my periods, there was moments where I was so absolutely dumbfounded, shocked that I didn't even know that humanity could do some of the things that were going on. And it feels like that in some of your comments, you were kind of shocked a little bit too. Like what? Because you kept saying like, what the hell is going on here?
Yeah. I mean, Eric, you probably went through this too, maybe, but I know for myself, it was like, well, it can't get any worse until the next day.
It actually gets worse.
Because especially in my case, right, everything I touched turned to gold, right?
Yeah, sure.
So, until it did,
until everything you touched was turning to shit.
Boy, I get it. I get it. I think again though, it comes back to one of the recurring themes that we've talked about a lot, Eric, on this show, and that is that entrepreneurship is inaccurately portrayed by pop culture or in the pop culture of, I got to come up with a new idea that's never been done before. Well, you were working in basically mature industries for all practical purposes, right?
Definitely.
So that blows that out of the water. Yeah. And then, immediately I got to go raise outside capital. Well, we all know that the longer you wait to do that, the better off you are, right?
Yep.
Because you don't want to give it away too early. Yep. And that there's and then bad things can happen. I mean, it's like, it's always portrayed as come up with idea, raise all this, but somebody comes along and pays you a whole bunch of money for it, and then you're done. It's just not like that.
I have to share this. My wife did a executive program at Harvard.
Sure,
kind of week-long Harvard entrepreneurship programs, and one of the professors there was saying, he totally doesn't believe in luck. And he talked about how he engineered his business and had a successful sale. That was kind of his data point. And it's like, holy smokes, man. If you read through my part, it's like, wow, there's no doubt that luck
it's part of it.
Luck is so much. It has so much to do with success or failure.
It really does.
It does, man. To that point, particularly Mark, what you were just saying a second ago, the fear that I have in this encouragement of being an entrepreneur, this fad, it literally needs to stop. It's like the same fad, or it's like the same thing as like, hey, be a rock star, be a party person, I mean, it's super cool, and then there's good people that end up getting freaking hooked up on dope and
they're dead.
And they're dead.
They're 27.
Same shit can happen in entrepreneurship. You will, if you aren't ready for that, or you don't even have to be ready. If you aren't able to go through those, and kind of to your point here about the eternal optimist, if you aren't in that mind frame, and there's a reason why you're trying to be an entrepreneur anyway, or that you don't even need to know that you are one, you just have something you want to go do. Like you can't, like to set people up to be in those positions of what you were in, or what I was in, or something that Mark was in. Not everybody can make it through that.
Yeah, it takes resilience. That's the buzzword now. Resilience. Okay.
It does, but I mean
it does.
Like I think
really
that's part of what we're trying to do here.
We're trying to give people that and show that it's possible to survive these things, right?
There's that side, and there's also don't fall in the trap of just being an entrepreneur is like becoming a freaking college professor or an engineer. It's not the same. It's not the same.
It's going to take a lot of work. It takes a lot of total dedication. I mean, all the things that we all know. It's not a separation of work and personal life.
No,
it's an integration.
Yes.
Don't you think? And
totally. Yeah.
It's so everyone. Let's talk work-life balance. The implication is work's horrible and should be avoided. in that whole equation, isn't it?
Work-life integration.
Yeah,
I totally agree. Yeah.
And so it is a lot of work, but it's also not a lot of work because at the same time it's stuff we like.
Shit. Yeah, man.
Right.
Like what you're doing now. I mean, that's not working you. I mean, you're living your life.
Right.
Absolutely, you bet.
And even if it's not something but even your previous businesses that you're doing, you were still living because you had a vision. You're on this ride. You're trying to solve a problem. You're in the middle of that.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Make an impact.
Yep, totally. Yeah.
Well, sure. We're running out of time here, but I'd like to hear what best piece of advice do you have for entrepreneurs and business owners today, Harry?
So, given my subject matter expertise, the number one risk factor for business owners are the personal guarantees.
Yeah,
and if you have a line of credit or leases or credit cards or whatever, my recommendation is, for example, with a line of credit, meet with your banker, find out what it would take for you to eliminate or carve out personal assets like your house, your car, etc., from the personal guarantee.
Yep.
So because if you don't ask, it'll never happen, and you'll always have them. If you ask, I know for sure, and you can find out by reading the book, but you can have a business without any personal guarantees.
Yeah.
It's really a mindset. And I don't disagree. I mean, I got completely out of personal guarantees after being in business long enough and having a strong enough balance sheet and financial performance. Now, on the real estate side, I can't say that. No matter what I do, they always wanted a personal guarantee. I don't think I could get the loans on the real estate without it. Yeah. Have you been able to?
All the time. No, I'm just kidding. I haven't. But I mean, it's surprising to me because you have actually a real property that can be
right.
Like that's silly.
They still demand it.
It's because it's an old business, right? It's just tradition.
Well, and they're so regulated. The government wants to see that to maintain their insurance from the FDIC and all. But you're right. I mean, you're never going to get there unless you ask. I think that's very good advice. You need a really good relationship with your banker, and you got to keep probing to get them to commit to what it's going to take to let you out of that, because bad things can happen.
Yeah. For example, for my showroom here, the seller, it's a seller financing. So I have a 8-year note.
Yep.
And no personal guarantee.
Yep. That's good.
So anyway, the point is, if just have it be something that is a focus, because that's the number one risk factor.
You're right. That's how you really crash and burn and lose it all.
Oh, God.
All right.
Dude, this has been fantastic.
Well,
Harry, it's awesome meeting you. Definitely going to be, so your book, obviously available on many bookstores online as well, and then is available in audible form or audio format as well?
Okay. Audible, the electronic version, and then hard copy.
Okay, perfect. I'm going to go buy that puppy today and listen to it, man. I mean, love it.
It is an important book. I mean, for entrepreneurs, it's an important book because nobody else has ever delved into this.
Yeah, that's awesome, man.
Harry was so nice. The first time I talked to him, we were talking about cars. He told his assistant to send me the book. And I'm like, what book?
That's awesome.
He sent it. And then I found out he was a lot more than a car guy.
Yeah. Yeah.
So anyway, well, Harry, thank you so much.
Wonderful. Yeah. Yes. And Eric, pleasure meeting you.
Yeah. Thank you, sir.
Great seeing you again.
Been fantastic.
We appreciate having you on the show. And this has been another episode of Big Talk About Small Business. And check out our website at bigtalkaboutsmallbusiness.com for other episodes of the show.
Yeah.
And we also want to hear your comments and suggestions and questions and criticisms.
Yeah, and we want you to subscribe too, so you know when the new shows come out.
Right.
And it's also important for this show. Like, I mean, hey, man, look, we're doing a business here, right, Mike?
Right.
I mean, we want to make sure. I think I called you Mike.
It's all right. You were thinking about my microphone. I had somebody do that.
But we do. I mean, we're building a business here. If we get subscribers, we get more downloads, views, likes, thumbs up, all that kind of crap.
It helps.
It helps us get sponsors, and we can keep doing this.
Exactly. Otherwise, at some point, we'll be like, why are we doing this?
Exactly.
There's other stuff.
Right. And it's not a charity. Like we're working.
I know. We got overhead here. It's got to be
man.
paid.
I mean, so freaking subscribe.
Yeah.
So we can drive more ad revenue.
Right. Exactly.
I mean, it's simple.
Absolutely.
And if you want a really cool car, by the way, or sometimes occasional motorcycles, classicpromenade.com has some really cool stuff. It's constantly changing.
That's awesome.
There's always something out there I want.
Yeah, that's super cool. I'm going to go check out that content too, because Harry, what you don't know about me is I'm a big content fanatic. I mean, I built my career on all that stuff. So maybe sometime we'll connect on that and go deep about all this stuff after I do an audit of your content. No, I'm not going to do that. I'm just kidding. But I mean, but the final thing is on the questions for the viewers. Please do send us questions, because I think that what would be cool is send us some questions about this episode. And maybe we get with Harry, have him back on. Let's answer some of these things like that are relative, especially in the book, right? If somebody went and read the book, they threw some questions over to us. We can make that. We can come back and answer questions.
We can do that. Yeah, if Harry's willing to do it.
Yeah. Are you willing to do something like that, Harry?
You bet. My
pleasure. Thanks, Harry. Right. Thanks, everybody.
That was recorded, right?
Yes.
Okay. Good.
It was.
Not that I'm trying to entrap you, Harry, as an attorney would.
All right. Well, thanks, everybody, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks for tuning into this episode of Big Talk About Small Business. If you have any questions or ideas for upcoming shows, be sure to head over to our website, www.bigtalkaboutsmallbusiness.com, and click on the Ask the Host button for the chance to have your questions answered on the show. Stay connected with us on LinkedIn at Big Talk About Small Business. And be sure to head over to our website to read articles, browse episodes, and ask questions about upcoming shows.